Alright, come join Kyle, John and David as they go through what's on their playlist, find out what's everyone's favourite at Chicken Soup for the Soul Entertainment. We have a few segments, to be honest, in and out points, no celebs and the gossip, back in time where we talk about the big M's, coming attractions, what the cue, quick checks, who'll be laughing, you abundantly. Welcome to Dual Redundancy.
Yes, welcome to Dual Redundancy, the only podcast where you can hear all latest in television and entertainment news with two meals with exactly the same opinions. I'm one of those hosts, David Allen, and another one is
John Berwick, and a third one is
Kyle Bridger. I would say that I am the Kendall to John's Shiv to Dave's Roman. We're
Yes.
the Roy children.
We are the Roy children. Did any of us get the crown at the end of the day on Succession? We'll talk about it later. We won't spoil it yet, but we will spoil it. We will talk all about it. Two big series finales to talk about. Two fourth seasons, two shows on HBO Max. So, excuse me, Max. I got to make sure I get the terms right. We will break down Succession and Barry tonight, but first, we have this segment. And John, I need your help. What is it?
in and out points.
In, order out. In, order out. In,
Yes, we've been talking about it for a while, but as of last week, HBO Max, which launched 3 years ago after it replaced HBO Now, which launched 5 years before that, is now officially Max. Drop the HBO, it's cleaner, or is it? You would think after numerous launches, I mean, every few years they launch a new streaming service, that would be smooth sailing for this one, no problems whatsoever. Not only did they have their usual crashes and errors, but there was also a really big issue that took the internet by storm: credits. So during the rebrand, instead of keeping the list of credits, per role, the director, the writer, the producers, they instead lumped everyone into creators. And this lack of specific details really irked many creatives, including some who are currently on strike and some that could go on strike. So I got some statements I'll read in a minute here, but initial thoughts on this, John. Should we, for when we do the podcast, it's just creators, right? We just list everyone's name.
I mean, that's fine. We're all here doing stuff, but for something this big, what do you mean? How dare you? You say that like we're not doing. All right, never mind. For something like this, where like there's just so many people and they all have such like specific jobs, like, and you have the data already split up, and that's how it previously was. Like, who signed off on this? Who was just like, screw it, put it all in one group? Like, it's just someone who doesn't know, or is it someone who just doesn't care? Like, how do we figure out what happened?
And like, what's this distinction? Because this has the Sopranos here, and you have obviously the creators, David Chase, but you got the writers, you got Matt Weiner, you have a bunch of other folks in there as well. But then if you look, I was like happened to look at Succession. The very first person listed creators under creators was Will Ferrell. And yes, he is an executive producer on it because he worked with Adam McKay and they were producing partners back in the day. But I will take it, I'll make a bet. He has not done a single day of work on that thing since the pilot. Maybe even before that. Not a single day, but he's the first name listed. I don't know about that. But Kyle, I cut you off. What were you saying?
Yeah, I was just going to say there's executive producers on a bunch of shows that don't do anything for the show, but still have the credit, whether it be they're footing the bill on this kind of thing. But that doesn't mean they're creators on the show. But I just feel like, to go back to John's point, why I feel like whenever these changes are coming about, it's a way to screw over someone. Yeah. And it's probably for residuals or something. I don't know what goes into that, but that's what I'm thinking.
It really shows what like HBO Max and Max is feeling about just the creative process. It's like, creators, People made it. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, but do you not know writers and directors and producers and this, and like there's different departments, different creative people working together here. And so the WGA West president Meredith Steinman said, Warner Brothers has lumped writers, directors, and producers into an invented diminishing category they call creators. This is a credits violation for starters, but worse, it is disrespectful and insulting to the artists that make the films and TV shows that make their corporation billions. Meanwhile, the Directors Guild, who's actually negotiating right now before a potential strike themselves, said, quote, for almost 90 years, the Directors Guild has fought fiercely to protect the credit and recognition deserved by directors for the work they create. Warner Brothers Discovery's unilateral move, without notice or consultation, to collapse directors, writers, producers, and others into a generic category of creators in their new Max rollout, while we are in negotiations with them, is a grave insult to our members and our union. They go on to say that the DGA will not stand for it. We intend on taking the strongest possible actions in solidarity with the WGA to ensure every artist receives the individual credit they deserve. Well, way to really just, you already got one group mad at you. Let's get another group striking because of this issue. It's like, come on, what are we doing?
Yeah, and the fact that they just kind of dropped this on a Wednesday without, releasing it or saying that they were going to do it or providing any information that they were going to do this, that they just sort of like, oh, let's see what we can get away with kind of thing, even makes it worse. But I don't know how much worse the whole HBO, Warner Brothers, Discovery, they just are the gang that can't shoot straight, man. They're terrible.
Yeah, we'll break some of their decisions down in a minute here. But Max responded, and they said that even execs didn't know of the change, and it could take weeks to fix this error. They said, quote, we agree that the talent behind the content on Max deserve their work to be properly recognized. We will correct the credits, which were altered due to an oversight in the technical transition from HBO Max to Max, and we apologize for this mistake. John, was this just a technical transition issue?
This makes me think that they have some checks and balances. It's not just like change it and hit go. Like somebody probably has to approve it all and make sure the spacing and kerning and all that. But then if they have someone who's doing that, it's going to take them weeks. Why did it pass in the first place when someone was supposed to be checking all the kerning and all that? Like, how you can't have it both ways? Like,
oh yeah, it was just a mistake, but it's going to take weeks to fix the mistake. It's like, no, this is such a BS because there is no possible way that this is just some kind of tech error. Because one, executives sign off on everything. There's somebody signing this off. There's not just like an intern, just like, let me just do this. No, like there's multiple people that have to get it approved. But then two, you actually have to create the bucket for creators. Like you have to tell the computer, put them under the term creators.
Yeah.
It's not just like, oh yeah, the computer just, said, oh, we're going to just lump all these people together. We're not the actors, but the writer. And like, no, they're not that smart. The computers, AI is smart, but not that smart right now. So this is just they're just making stuff up what they can do to kind of save face, I think. But yeah, what a mess.
It is a mess. Everything has been a mess.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess it all goes back to just the name. I mean, some have said it was a move, to kind of change the mindset. I saw a quote, we're not just premium programming, but the home for everything. It's like, not only do we have steak, we also have cheeseburgers. It's like, okay, like, and first of all, this is just dumb. Like to go from HBO Max to Max because they're worried that they're going to like kind of piss off, or maybe, oh, we want to get people that maybe just don't want good programming. They want just the garbage that you watch on TV. Like, okay, but they're just they were so worried that they're going to anger like the Discovery Plus fans and making them pay more, that they still have the standalone Discovery Plus app. They could get that for $6-7 because they were worried, oh, we don't want them to be forced to pay for the premium content, $15, whatever. But it's like, well, what about me? I'm an HBO Max fan that doesn't want the Discovery Plus stuff. Right now, it's the same price, but it's not going to stay that way. It's not going to stay that way. Of course, it's going to go up. So it's okay to piss me off, but you can't piss them off. Any other thoughts on the name of Max?
I mean, the whole thing is just so silly, and to just keep doing it again and again and again, you're rupturing
A new coat
a
of paint every 2 years.
yeah, it's just you're rupturing like a fan base that's sticking around because the content is there. Like HBO is the thing that makes me keep coming back, and going into the app now. Luckily, it has its own little area because it has changed a lot, like vastly, vastly different on the app. I
Yeah.
just, yeah, I don't, the all the content they just added to this is not making me want it. It would just be what was already originally there and what they're already pumping out.
And I will argue that for the general consumer that doesn't listen to podcasts or, maybe follows this as closely as we do, Max means nothing.
Yeah,
Max means nothing to them. Like talk
yeah,
to your parents or, whoever, they're probably confused already with HBO
hmm
Max. But I bet if you ask them like, hey, where do you think you could watch like HBO content? HBO Max or Max? I bet they would guess HBO Max. It's like,
Yeah.
then ask them what is on Max. Do you think they would automatically say, oh, Discovery Plus content for sure? Like
yeah,
I don't
no,
think they could compute that. Like it's just
yeah,
like 3 years ago, you intentionally used HBO in the name HBO Max to get people in because it's
yeah,
like, oh, well, if we say HBO Max, people will know. It's like, well, now we don't want them to know. Like this weird back and forth switch. And
yeah,
not to mention, here's the thing that I think kind of went under the radar here. It is a transition. We went from HBO Max to Max, but it's actually a separate app. It's not the same app.
I know.
What are we doing? HBO
Well,
Now became HBO Max.
I
That
mean,
automatically changed, but now we're gonna make people buy and get another. What are we doing?
like, but the thing is I understand it because if you think of HBO Max as HBO, when you log into Max, it looks like a totally different thing. I've got like totally different shows. The vibe is so much different than what HBO Max was or HBO almost exclusive content was compared to Max and what they're trying to push out. So it makes sense if they're trying to do this total rebrand that it would be a separate identity because you don't want to be
Well, I would have
attached
been
to
fine if
HBO
it like
Max.
switched like when HBO Now I had that, and then one morning I woke up and it's like, oh, it's HBO Max. I didn't do anything. It just downloaded HBO Max
Yeah.
for me. It changed, but like now if you go on like whatever on your desktop or whatever, you go to HBO Max, it says,
hmm
oh, HBO Max is no more. Go download the Max app. It's like
Yeah.
you're making me do
Yep.
extra work. Like
Yeah.
it
Yeah,
Like
just
same.
I get it. The only thing I'm
yeah,
saying is probably justifying it is
yeah.
because they want it to be its own entity outside of HBO
HBO.
now. But it's just like that why it's so silly is because the HBO content is what keeps people coming back. It is the thing that
Yeah.
people know.
Yeah, and well, I will say like yeah, it wants to be its own thing, but man, even just like the littlest details of the color, like for
Mhm.
that color change to go from a very nice purple that stands out to blue is like I think one of the dumbest decisions because it's
Yeah.
like everything is blue. Every
Yeah.
app is blue.
Yeah.
Amazon, Paramount Plus,
Yep.
Disney Plus, they're all blue. It's like pick a different color at least. If you
Yeah.
don't want purple anymore, do a different one. Because if you look in your sea of apps, it all just blends together now.
Yeah.
They're all just one big sea of blue. And I don't know. It's not just the internet that was mad, not just me. The stock market also dropped. I mean, after the presentation in April when they announced Max and all these changes, stock prices fell 6%. And that's not it's supposed to be the opposite. This is a good thing. No, they realized this and it led to memes like this meme in Succession, like there it is. That is HBO. That's what the name is worth. That drop, that
Yeah.
6% drop.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like an interesting choice to launch it. I think when they did, because obviously it was a week before Succession, very finales. But I'm curious, like, why not before? Why not like at the beginning of the season to get people like more into it? Because there's no real huge show coming out on the horizon. So there's The Idol, which is soaring high on Rotten Tomatoes, if you look at those numbers. But House of the Dragon is shooting during the Writers Guild strike. We'll see how those scripts are that they can't touch during shooting. That's maybe coming out hopeful late 2024, maybe, if there's not another strike on the horizon. But The Last of Us, White Lotus, Euphoria, they're all at least 2025 at the earliest. So it's just like this weird, it's like what else you got? Max,
yeah.
But I guess we'll wait.
Maybe
and see.
Maybe that's a part of the plan. You have no more Succession. We've turned to 100 billion hours
Guys, grocery games.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
and they can blame the people who got lost in the translation from HBO Max to Max in their lull of content. And it's not our fault the name changed. We don't have anything pumping out right now.
Yeah, this just sounds like a Nathan For You thing when Kyle was like, the plan, get rid of our audience and completely destroy a streaming service.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we've talked about that for way too long. I already am worried that we're going to be going a little late tonight, but we got two big shows to talk about. In order to talk about them, let's go back.
Back in time.
We're back, baby.
Gotta get back in time.
Succession, the series finale with Open Eyes. It aired last night, May 28th. Now, we discussed the premiere of season 4 and, of course, the Connor's wedding episode. Those were in episode 419 and 420 of the podcast. Tonight, for both these shows in each section, we are spoiling these shows. We're talking about the finale, so we're going to say everything that happened in the finale. So there's your warning. We follow the Roy siblings as they initially are in opposition of each other, attempting to whip votes for the Waystar Royco board members before the vote on Gojo's acquisition of the company. However, a last-minute change to the planned CEO for the firm post-acquisition shifts the Roy siblings' alliances. All right, so we got a lot to talk about. We'll start with the finale, and then we'll talk about the episodes we didn't get to this season. I want to first actually start with John. The last time we talked, John, you have not seen Succession.
I had seen only the first episode twice.
All of Succession. So what is your thoughts on the 4 seasons in a matter of 2 weeks here?
I enjoyed it. I definitely think I would have enjoyed it more if I had watched one a week. I think it's one of those shows where it needs a little bit of time to percolate and to mull over. So I think I would have enjoyed it more. However, it wasn't bad. I mean, I enjoyed it. Made me sad at a couple of parts. Made me, laugh a couple times. It was pretty good overall.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't know how much seeped in through all these years of us talking about it with L to the OG and obviously Connor's wedding episode.
You know what? To be honest, I knew those things happened, but as it was rolling out on the screen, I wasn't thinking about it. So it didn't really.
That's good.
It wasn't a surprise, you know what I mean? But it wasn't a complete oh yeah, I know that happens. It still was. It was good.
I'm so glad that you get to feel the experience of seeing Tom Wamsgans eat chicken off of the plate of Logan.
What is he gonna do next? Put his what in the potato salad?
Yeah. Oh,
I guess.
Man, what a great
So, Kyle, we'll break it down, but initial overall thoughts of the finale. How was it?
The finale overall. Okay, I think I'm with everyone else and what I'm reading online, they absolutely loved it. I thought it was okay. I thought story-wise, it tied up all the loose ends, even questions that I had. I'm like, are they going to come back to this? And there was little blips in there. I'm kind of happy with how it turned out, but there were a couple of scenes that went on too long for me. And we can talk about those when we get into it, but that I thought made the finale a little disjointed at points, but overall love how the story turned out. I'm going to miss these characters and it's just still well written, all those things. It just the disjointedness kind of just made it okay for me.
I hear you on that. So for me, it's like this finale was a wild ride. I mean, initially the first maybe half third felt a little slow. I was like, where are we going? And like, okay, it's another we going, Roy versus Roy getting the votes. Like, I know, I mean, don't get me wrong, like that's still fun TV, but it's just like, okay, we've seen that before. Kendall saying it should be him, and the other two are like, no, no, like even though it's like, come on, I'll get it off my chest because right now we'll say, yeah, sure, all three of them are not serious people, but for the other two to even think they hold a candle to Kendall, it's like,
I know.
off it. Like, come
I
on,
know.
guys, just suck it up. But all three finally get along. They agree it's going to be Kendall, and then it started to feel like this is not Succession. Like this weirdly heartfelt finale, the three of them, making the meal for a king, and then watching the footage of Logan at the estate sale, and like, okay, something's not right here because Succession is it's a Shakespearean tragedy. So where's the tragedy here? And then when Tom tells Shiv, then like he's the CEO, he's the choice for medicine. It's on. And like then when it was like, okay, that last like whatever it was, 45 minutes to an hour from that point was like it was moving, battle stations, we were going. And I think we should get right to the big conference room scene. So there's this boardroom vote. It's 6-6, it's a tie, and it all hangs on Shiv. It's the last vote, who leaves the room to consider kind of both options. Do we go with Lucas? Do we go with Kendall? And the train not only derails for Kendall and the Roy children, but it completely crashes. And this decision from Shiv, pretty much saying like, I don't think you'd be good at it. And it's just Kendall is trying anything he can.
Yeah, because he just can't fathom that would even be the reason.
It's just like, this can't be true. He's not equipped to think that he isn't this unremarkable person. Like he is, of course, like this is my birthright. This is me. This is who I am. This is my personality. I'm 100% designed for this.
Since he was 7.
Yeah, exactly. And he just can't accept it. And he throws everything at the wall. He's guilting her about like a possible suicide attempt. He's denying killing the worker from season 1, in the finale there, which makes everyone just feel betrayed. Because it's like, well, wait a minute, you said that at the end of season 3, and that brought us together, and it was an emotional moment. We were there for you, and that was not real. And he doubles down on it.
But the thing is he felt attacked by them in that moment, so that's why, And
he claims he deserves it as the eldest boy. And, a little callback to Connor because, we can debate who's the eldest there. But then we get this like hit from Roman, and because it's like, well, no, Shiv is the real bloodline, because like, Logan never thought like your kids, Kendall, were legitimate, like, whether it's sperm donor situation, whatever it was, just, and there was a moment where I honestly thought Kendall was really about to kill Roman.
I did too.
Like his hands were in his eyes almost, like it was, and it's just and to see, we didn't really see it too much, but the rest of the building, looking through the glass of these 3 siblings literally just wrestling, yelling at each other, acting like children, when one of them could have been the CEO. It's just but what do you think of, I mean Shiv's decision, I guess, to go with Tom instead of with Kendall?
See, we can say it, we can phrase it like that, going with Tom, but is it even that, like,
or maybe it's going against Kendall? Like that's what it is.
It's so hard. And this was a thing that I saw being debated, is like, what is her motive for all this? And I think it's a little bit twofold. In she wants to get back at her brother because she feels like she's always passed over in any situation. It's always been either Ken or Roman, and she feels like she's passed over. And I think it's also, she realizes that he wouldn't be good at the job, and maybe I should just cash out now, and I'll still be revolving around the power by getting back with Tom. And, you know, anything could happen from there because God knows what Tom's going to be like. But I mean, it's hilarious to me, the situation that she's in, considering how she was the one going around to the party being like, Tom sucks. You don't,
Yeah.
or you don't want him. And now he's
they
running
always,
the company.
yeah, of course. They'll say that, and then 10 minutes later, that person's in charge. No, I'm with you. Of course,
Yeah.
I've always been with you. And it's like, I think it's, yeah, she gave up that it was ever going to be her. And it's like this choice. It's like, do I go with the doofus of a husband or my insufferable, inept brother? Like, which one,
Yeah.
pick my poison here. And I guess in the end, not only does she get the money from the buyout that she wanted to begin with, but also she, in a way, kind of gets the company, like in a little bit, in
Yeah.
this weird situation it's like, okay, yeah, Tom, who's the father of my child, will probably look out for me and at least
Mhm.
my family versus, who knows with Ken, what he ends up doing, if he
Yeah.
becomes Logan 2.0. And
Yeah.
I really felt like she was really like questioning it. She started to question it right before the meeting, right before the board meeting, when I almost said Logan, but when Kendall sits behind Logan's desk, puts his feet up on the desk, and starts dealing with Stewie, and just he's slipping in some homophobic remarks. He's just saying, "Oh, can we get you a board seat? Can we do this? And we do that?" And then not even one moment of turning to Shiv, turning to Roman, asking for any of their input. Like, wasn't this supposed to be kind of this thing? Like, we'd still have a say in situations. It's like, nope, it's all him. His decisions, he's making the negotiation. It's him, not us. And it's like, I saw it. Like, it's like right there. It's like, all right.
But it's such like a petty thing
Yeah.
but I mean, that's the world that they're living in. Like that ego trip could influence
I saw this
entire
like
lives.
Reddit post, and it was just like, it's like obviously a joke, but it's like, why do any of these people even want to work? Like, if I had billions of dollars, I'd be like, all right, I'm good. I'll just be on the
Yeah.
beach.
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
be on the board, make some board meetings, via Zoom, but I don't need to be there day to day with the emails. Like, leave me
Yeah.
alone. But the deal goes through. Tom is the CEO. Ken is broken inside. Now, pre-finale, I think I texted you, Kyle, and I was like, I'm leaning towards Tom. I think it's gonna be Tom. Of course, a lot of the internet was joking. Oh, it's gonna be Greg. It's gonna be the kind of a Game
Yeah.
of Thrones situation. It was never gonna be Greg.
No.
Come on. Like, at the end of the day, they have to at least, again, appease the board, appease shareholders. But what was this theory you were telling me about with the name Womscams?
So I saw that it's been going around on Twitter, I think, and TikTok. This woman said that there was a former baseball player, like in the 20s or 30s, maybe even before that, that was the first and maybe only player to do an unassisted triple play, which means getting 3 people out on the hitting team by yourself. And so since this guy had the same last name as Tom, the theory was that based on his name, he would take out the 3 Roy children. So it's an interesting theory, and it was going around before the show came out, or before the finale. So it's kind of cool if that was the reasoning for why they
who
named him
knows?
that.
Yeah.
That would be really interesting.
Yeah, especially because I don't know, because a lot of this is from the mind of Jesse Armstrong, as unlike what Max, creators tablet area says on the website. I know he's British. I don't know how much, maybe he follows, sports, or at least somebody on his writing staff told him that little stat when they were naming characters. But either way, it's a pretty cool thing here. We'll talk a little bit about Tom now as CEO, and I think we got this very initial test from Metzen at dinner. When he says, when he says this, it's like, okay, Shiv may not be the right person. I may want to sleep with her. And it's like, well, I know there's probably like part of him that he probably does want that. I also think this was like a test for him to be like, all right, is Tom really my yes man here? Like, will he go along with this? Because this is a terrible thing to say to someone's, husband here. But it's like, oh, he's going along with it. He will be my yes man. He will go along with anything I say if I am the owner. I don't want the image of like myself as this puppet, like that magazine showed that Shiv was controlling him. It's like, okay, I can really control Tom in this situation, and looks like he passed the test on that. Yeah. What do you think that how's Tom gonna do as CEO? You think, Kyle?
Well, based on how he did with ATN on the election night, it's
Gotta get
not
more
so
touchscreens.
yeah, not so great. But I think he's gonna do fine in the sense that he's gonna do whatever Mattson wants him to do. But Tom is not a dumb dude, because at the end when he was like trying to figure out, he was talking with Greg about who he should clear out, who he keep around, and Fisher Stevens' character there,
Hugo.
Hugo, comes up and he immediately is like, "Oh, where's Carolina?"
Yep.
And Jerry, he pointed out Jerry, and Jerry's not stupid. Like, she was smart. She was calculating her moves. So I think he could assemble a team that could keep him in power and do well. And I think he always does well with information. But again, it's Tom, though. you know.
Yep.
Yeah. But I want to talk about like the ending shot of Tom and Shiv. It's very, I feel like The Graduate, the two of them thinking, we're riding off into the sunset. We got everything we wanted. They're together, but not necessarily in love here. Obviously, it's like it looks like the pregnancy is, gonna go through. There'll be this happy family, quote unquote. I am curious, like, because there's a lot of stuff we still don't know, like with possibly President-elect Mencken here. Now, there was a line, I can't remember if Shiv said it, where it's like, oh, like there's talk that, I think, was it Wisconsin, maybe, getting more Democratic or something. Like maybe when everything settles, it'll go that way. He won't have the presidency. I wonder what that could cause for, ATN and Waystar Royco with a Democrat in the White House. But while they may not be in love, we know who's still in love: Tom and Greg. Things got heated for a little bit there when Tom thinks Greg told the family everything, when really he just said that Shiv was not going to be the CEO. But he puts the claim sticker on him, and he's going to join him on Waystar Royco 2.0 here. John, what did you think of this relationship throughout the 4 seasons of these two, the disgusting brothers?
Yeah, I think it provided some good comic relief. I mean, the topics they were discussing weren't always nice, but they were usually humorous. So I kind of liked it. It was a nice, interesting pairing. I really liked Greg's adversity to speaking in plain speak, and would always try and like make everything he said sound fancy. I thought that was funny that every time he spoke, he was just trying to think of like the longest words in the thesaurus to sprinkle into his text. But
the best is when he asked for a drink at Logan's, and Logan says, "Can we get Greg some Coca-Cola?" It's just like, it was so loud. Like, that was a terrible pronunciation of it. But yeah, that, and like, we here for you, and like that whole exchange. There's so many great moments between those two. But well, a lot of people were up. Some people were definitely down, and Kendall, I'm worried about him. Honestly,
oh my God.
I honestly thought he was about to jump at the end in the water. Supposedly, they shot a take where, of course, Jeremy Strong like was about to like jump over it, and like the actor playing his bodyguard there like kind of pulled him aside, and they ended up going with a different take here. But man, it's just,
but everything he's lived for gone in an instant.
Well,
and
I mean, he's getting paid handsomely for it, but it's not. There's not like it's
the
back
title,
to zero.
He wants
but
the job.
I mean,
yeah, I'm sure he doesn't care about the money.
We just had a very emotional scene where the siblings are all together, and he thinks they're all behind him, only to be backstabbed, and then had the worst stuff said to him, and then no one hears that part. They just see you attack your brother. I mean, this guy.
This is also like the second time in like 2 years or 3 years or whatever it's been with the show where a vote's being called and he thinks he has it and he
Yeah.
doesn't have it. And
Yeah. And not to mention all of the past like drug abuse he's had that
Yeah.
is well known in the industry. It's like this guy is a pariah. It's going to take him years to reestablish an image that he already had to do like CPR on, you know?
Yeah, can we
So,
also, I also remember this. Can we talk about how funny it was though when he goes into the elevator completely distraught and there was like this some random guy that went in.
yeah.
Like that's
Yeah.
just like perfect like office
Yeah.
like politics of like, yeah, like dude, this is not the time. Like take the
Yeah.
next one. Like let him have this moment. But
Yeah.
yeah, I was, he's of course in front of the water here, and water is just like so symbolic with him just throughout the whole series. The ending of season 1, obviously, with
Mhm.
what happened. He's in the bathtub at the start of season 3. He's nearly dying in the pool before the season 3 finale. He's happy in the water after he nails the Living Plus presentation. And then even in the finale, he's looking down at his two siblings, when they give him the full CEO title in the water there. And I don't know. I don't have an answer here, but it's like I feel like water. I was looking it up. It could mean so many different things, whether it's
Mm.
power, whether it's purity, or even chaos. And I feel like those are all the things Ken has gone through, like throughout the series. Thinking
Mhm.
he's, I'm gonna get the power, and then of course it just becomes so chaotic. Those waves crashing on him, and sometimes he's
Yeah.
being able to float, and other times he's sinking, and it's just
Yeah.
I just love that motif throughout the whole series. And I think we can talk a little bit about the season in general. I mean, the season was structured in an interesting way. Each episode was about a day.
Mhm.
It was a unique way to show this final season. Sometimes I really had to like extend my disbelief on some things. As much as I liked it, there was points where I'm like, okay, no company like ATN would lay off all those folks the day before their biggest day of work, which is the election. And then they also had like a huge funeral the day after that, and a board
Yeah.
meeting the next few days after launching a whole new product in Living Plus. And like, yeah, like there's a full printout minute by minute of what happened on
Mm.
election night, merely a couple of hours after it happened. Like, how did they get all these sources and
Yeah.
printed and released by 8 a.m.? Like, but
Also, sometimes the travel stuff. I mean, I know they fly
yeah.
private and all that,
Mhm.
but it was just like, wait, there's a lot of travel happening here in a short amount of time.
Yeah, yeah, they're like are constantly just flying around just for like 5-minute
Yeah.
conversations. But yeah, I think if you're gonna maybe do a top four, Mount Rushmore of the season with episodes, obviously you got Connor's wedding, obviously you got the finale. I would
Mm.
make an argument for election night and the funeral. I think are two other. I mean, to have election night, funeral, and the finale, just 1, 2, 3 is
Yeah.
a crazy run of episodes. But man, the election night was just for me. It was hard to watch. It was because it was almost like a doc about the last two elections we went through the
Yeah.
eyes of Fox News. It was all just really, as Roman says, making good TV. Like that
Yep.
was all it was. Just good TV. And so it was like cringy, but it was also like just it was still hilarious. Tom and Greg,
Mm-hmm.
doing coke behind the whiteboard, yelling about broken touchscreens, the wasabi in the eye with the lemon LaCroix, like
Yeah, that was
just
next
a
level.
little lemony. But yeah, any other thoughts on the election night episode, guys? Anything
I
that stick out with you with that big of an episode?
would say it's a little bit lemony in the LaCroix, but it's also carbonated. Like I don't think I want that in my eye, even if it was no lemon. Um,
Oh man. Yeah.
Um, yeah, the election night was a good
Yeah,
one.
it just moved so quick, and it was just like even like the backstabbing and the
Mm-hmm.
where Shiv was not really calling her contacts at the DNC there, and then it's like
Oh yeah, and Ken finds out.
Ken
Yeah,
finds
that's
out and calls the election because it was like this kind of angel demon Ken in the middle
yeah,
situation where
mhm.
Roman wants this, Shiv wants that. Where do I go? Do we make the call? But
yeah.
you have that. The next episode, you got the funeral, and this is just like acting like a masterclass. It's I saw stuff where
Mm,
kind of like the Connor's wedding episode, they kind of shot it for like a play in real time for the most part to really give the actors kind of the ebbs and flows of it all. And we
Mhm.
kind of saw a lot how it happened. Full speeches from a lot of people, even the very hard to watch one from Roman with that emotional
Yeah.
breakdown, the grief finally catching up to him. Any thoughts on the funeral episode and these performances?
Well, yeah, I mean the line that Roman has where he's like, "Is he in there?"
Yeah.
It's like, oh man,
Yeah.
that was a crushing one. Um, and I thought with Kendall kind of saving the day here, I thought that lent more credibility to his,
Yeah. He killed it.
possible leadership,
Yeah.
stuff. But yeah, and then I thought Shiv's was just like, is she just saving face by being up there by saying something? It was just so random. But I think this was the beginning of the end for Roman, because of when
Yeah.
they said he'd become a meme, right? And they couldn't even look
Yeah.
him in the eye. It was just like,
Yeah.
oh, it's so bad.
And
It's
then this is the episode that ends with him running into the crowd of protesters and
yeah,
seeing what happens pretty much.
yeah.
Man, it's gonna be a real tough year at the Emmys. I mean, not only do we have all those shows we've talked about in the past, but if we just look at Succession, I mean, Culkin is actually moving from supporting actor to lead this season.
Mm,
So he's lead actor along with Jeremy Strong.
mm,
And Sarah Snook also went lead actress as well from
Mhm.
supporting. So you think, oh, supporting is really, emptying out, but it's like, no, you still have obviously Matthew McFadden, you have Alan
Mhm.
Ruck, you have Nicholas Braun for Cousin Greg. You have so many people. And then to top it all off, I really thought Brian Cox, obviously, limited screen time for Logan this season. I'm like, oh, maybe he'd be able to go guest. And I think, oh, he would easily just win the guest acting, thing. But I think the number of episodes, because he, appeared in a couple
Yeah,
other ones
and
after his
also,
death, I think he's actually supporting, but he's choosing to stay in lead. So you now have Culkin, Strong, and Cox all in lead
Right.
actor, possibly all going
Also,
against each other.
yeah, and also isn't he credited as a series regular? So
Yeah.
he couldn't be a guest star as a series regular. I don't think that's
It's
how that works.
it's tough because I feel like I guess spoiler for Better Call Saul with how they like broke down the season. There's one or two actors that are only in like the first half of season 6B that I
Mm,
think are eligible for supporting, or no, are eligible for guest actor, even though you would think they would more actually be supporting actors, but that's
mm.
a whole other thing. Just it's all like
Yeah,
numbers. It's all confusing, but I just think like that is just it's gonna be a
either
bloodbath
way,
in that category.
either way, just among Succession people, it's going to be tough because Matthew McFadden was great,
Yep.
especially with him and the scene with Siobhan on the ledge. Both of them could
Yeah.
have, so
Yeah. And we're talking about that scene that's when it's dropped, or actually it's excuse me, Tom says that like you would be a terrible mother. That's before
yeah,
he knows
yeah,
that she's pregnant. That's actually before the writers and
yeah.
directors kind of knew too, because they were kind of flying by, the seat of their pants here with it, because it was added in after the fact, it seems, because in episode 7, when they have their big fight, the episode 4 scene where she finds out wasn't written yet. So it's like
Mm,
this weird thing. Like, I don't know if it's maybe because like they added after when you saw on the red carpet, Sarah Snook was actually pregnant in real life. And I definitely, at least how I was watching it, even though this takes place over 10 episodes, it was clear in the finale, just with what she was
yeah.
wearing. And just, it was okay. She was already showing signs there, even though her character wouldn't. It was funny though, because I feel like at the funeral, like her mom sees her. And again, like, hasn't seen her forever, at this point would not be showing, but it's like, you're pregnant. It's like
Yeah.
instantly, and that's just like a mom thing. But even like Madsen was saying it too. It's like you saw her 2 days ago and you didn't know, and all of a sudden you're seeing it now. The episode after she
Yeah.
tells people, I don't. It's a little confusing, but yeah, I think it just goes to show like the show kind of going with like the improv style of it a bit, because there's like a lot of the best bits I feel like came from those free takes that they would do, where it's like
Mhm.
the whole Roman and Jerry relationship was based on that. Like, they didn't know this connection that they would have, but then they started fooling around and joking around, and that became a thing after Roman is technically married and with kids in the pilot.
I know.
So there's always like threads that don't completely connect with Succession. There's a lot of things that maybe they'll start, but then they don't completely finish. But with that being said, I'm still all in on this show. This show is one of the all-time shows. The acting, the directing, the writing, everything is just top notch. And I think all three of us would agree. Even John, who saw it in 2 weeks.
It's well worth a watch. Yeah.
Yeah.
So any final? Oh, sorry to cut you off, but
I was just gonna say it is just so good. The writing and the performances are just so great. But yeah, so many memorable scenes. Just the Greg and Tom, the relationships. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah,
it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough. I'm gonna miss
really
it.
gonna miss this. I'm really gonna miss this show. I might have to be. I recently did a rewatch to get ready for season 4. It might be, I don't know. I might be watching it again soon.
Here's the question: do you like it better than Breaking Bad?
Oh, I mean, I can't. I think it's still Breaking Bad. I think that's maybe one of my first loves. It's just you can't. You gotta. I think. I mean, we said it on the podcast. You can listen back to the archives. Season 1, episode 1, when we talked about this, we didn't like it.
Yeah.
It took us a while. I think season 2 was when we actually we gave it another shot. We came back and we went all in on it. So it's like I'm curious, like watching it back, will season 1 still connect? Will it feel like a different show?
I do want to watch it back just to see, now that I know more about the characters, see more of the intricacies of the writing. Yeah.
All right. We still got one more show to talk about. Another series finale, another 4th season finale, and that's Barry. Wow, that was the name of the episode. 528. We discussed the first half of the season in episode 422. So we'll talk about the finale, and maybe we'll jump around in some of the half season we didn't get a chance to talk about. But it all comes to a close as we see who ultimately dies, is put behind bars, or has a movie made about their life in this final episode here. Let's start off with John. John, what did you think of the finale of Barry?
Mixed feelings. I think overall I enjoyed it, but I'm not sure if I enjoyed what happened to each character. I can't really think of what I would want to happen to each one, but at the same time, like, it felt a little anticlimactic, even though there was definitely a climax point. But yeah, I don't know. Thinking back to previous seasons, we ended a season and we were like, oh man, we ended this season. I'm like, oh, okay, the story's over. You know, I just, it's not bad, but it's not punching, you know?
I feel like there was a lot to cram in with this final season, especially in this final half season. In this final episode, there was a lot to do. Some of it at points felt rushed. And yeah, leading up to the finale, my fiance asked me, "Is like, oh, like, who do you want to have? And like, who do you want to have?" I'm like, I don't know. That's what you were saying. Like, I don't know what I want, but like, yeah, every season would end with like, oh my God, how are they gonna get out of this? Or oh my God, what situation that they're in? This is such a cliffhanger. This is a moment. And then I feel like a lot of things wrapped up with this, and I'm not sure how it's sitting with me.
And
but
I think for me, that time jump is really what, and we're gonna discuss it, but that time jump is what really threw everything into, it's not chaos, but like it really changed my expectations and what I wanted to happen, and some of it good and some of it maybe not so good. But yeah, it felt a little weird.
Yeah, it took like a detour. It took us off this main road we were on for 3.5 seasons. Yeah, I mean, with that being said, there's still a lot that I liked about it, especially also just the series in general. But before we get there, Kyle, your thoughts on the finale of Barry?
I enjoyed the finale. I mean, I'm like you. I didn't know where I saw the story going. Not really sure I wanted it in any particular way. I think I enjoyed, especially the directing of the finale, some of the scenes, how they were shot, especially the scene where NoHo Hank dies, was really well shot. But I will say, liking how the finale was, I wasn't like happy with the build up to it with
Yeah.
the time jump, and then we're
Yeah.
spending so much time away from what was happening, and then I felt like they tried to like fast forward through parts, and so the back half of the season got a little bit wonky, but I think being back in LA, we're getting all these characters, back in the same playing field, and that's when action happens again. So in that sense, I liked it. And the Fuchs-Berry thing made sense to me.
Yeah.
Um I thought Gene always had a potential to kill Barry, so that made sense to me as well. And I
Well, yeah,
just
he's a criminal and Barry's a war hero. We'll get to that as
yeah,
well.
yeah. But the other thing with like NoHo Hank, he's such an interesting character, but I felt at times it was like up and down with what to do with him kind of sometimes. So I don't know.
Yeah, you're
But
right.
overall, I enjoyed the finale.
Yeah, I mean there was a lot to cram in, and we end episode 7 with Hank, calling Barry, telling him he has Sally, he has his son. Let's,
Mhm.
move here, like let's go. And the episode, picks up quick, and we go right up. Hank is now calling Fuchs, saying, "Hey, I can give you Barry. It's like a little peace
Mhm.
offering. We don't have to, fight anymore. I'll give you Barry. Come here as well." So everyone's supposed to be coming to the NoHo Hank's office here. And once Fuchs sees Barry's kid, I feel like a whole new deal, a whole new thing happens. And it's like he's like, okay, just new deal, admit it. You killed Cristobal, like, like just say it and I'll be fine. We'll move on.
Mhm.
Like that's it. And Hank can't do it. And I saw this one initial like theory on Reddit where it's like the week before, it's like, oh, he did this at the dinner scene because he's actually like an undercover informant, like maybe with a wire. That's how he got out of prison, to get this information or whatever. That wasn't the
Mm.
case. He just wants that, for Hank to admit it, and it was still too raw, still too emotional, and we get this shootout, and it's just like, because again, you're like, oh, how's Barry gonna get out of this? It's like Barry's not gonna have to get out of this because they're all
Yeah.
gonna shoot each other.
Yeah.
And yeah, they're pretty much all dead except for Sally, Barry's son, and Fuchs, who jumped over to protect Barry's son. Any thoughts on that decision there, John, for Fuchs to save Barry's son and get out of this alive here?
I mean, I guess it makes sense if you think about Fuchs and the change he went through seeing Barry's son. I was tiny bit off topic. Is this Barry's like biological son? Do we know?
He is pretty old for 8 years time jump here.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know if we ever really. I don't. There's nothing really that would throw it into doubt. But
Yeah,
like, I don't know. It just always seemed weird. But
yeah, because it couldn't
yeah,
be Sally. I mean, it is Sally's, but I don't know Sally would have time, and in those 8 years, that time jump because again, that kid looks, I don't know, 10, 12 years old at least.
Mhm.
yeah.
But
But I mean, yeah, it makes sense that maybe Fuchs would have a change of heart and with what Barry and him have been through, want to protect Barry's kid and get him out alive. So
yeah, and we get the moment when Barry like arrives. First, he hilariously gets guns again from the
Yeah.
supermarket there, and he sees Fuchs, and the kid comes running up to him, hugs Barry, and Fuchs runs back off into the darkness. And yeah, it's this moment that we've been kind of seeing in season 4, that Fuchs met Barry at a young age, corrupted him into this killing machine monster, and sees this with his son there, and it's like, too pure. I don't want to do this again. This kind of like
Mhm.
peace offering. He's yours. I'll run away. This is it.
Mhm.
Leave us. Leave me alone, kind of thing.
mm.
Any thoughts on that decision from Fuchs there, Kyle?
No, it made sense to me, and especially with the monologue that he gave to, I think it was NoHo Hank, about realizing who he was, and I'm guessing that he tried to be this egomaniacal person through Barry, and I think maybe he was just like, I'm done doing that, and I'm gonna actually be true to myself, and this is a peace offering to Barry. Yeah.
Yeah, so Barry, Sally, and the son are all reunited, but then in the middle of the night, just like the famous relationship that we heard that she experienced earlier, she leaves in the middle of the night, leaves this abusive man, and Barry thinks she went to Jean and is going off to find her at Jean's, and this is where we slightly lose me in a bit with this finale, where it looks like Jean is about to commit suicide. Everyone thinks he killed Janice. Everyone on the internet, he even has lost his son. It's just, and I like the moment where like Barry's ready to turn himself in, and he's saying this to Jean's agent who's in the house, and you hear this gunshot where you initially think that was Jean in the bedroom doing it before this moment, but instead no, it was actually Jean shooting Barry, and before Barry can say more than "oh wow," there's another shot to the head, and we cut to black. And at first, I really thought that we were getting the Sopranos ending. I thought that was going to be it. I really thought, like, okay, Barry's done. So the show called Barry, that's it. Like, and I guess the question is, John, would you have been okay with that ending?
I think so. Not that whatever was after the credits was not good, but like I said before, that was kind of like the climax of the episode, and it felt like it kind of came down after that. Even though I kind of enjoyed seeing the little parody that they did at the end, but I don't know. I'm mixed on it.
Yeah.
I can't decide.
I definitely hear you, and I feel like I was going back and forth on it. I'm leaning, as of this taping, that would have been a pretty cool ending. Sure, yeah, the Sopranos comparisons would have been there, but I think like the show that we were talking about earlier, John, where it's like an episode would end and like literally Barry yelled, "What?" And like that was like what, like, yeah, like what happened? Like that is like the show. I feel like having that like jolt of that theme song of like that was the show. I feel like instead of like we the the next time jump, which we'll talk about in a minute. But Kyle, would you be okay with the Sopranos 2.0 here?
Yeah, I mean, I think it could have worked. I don't think you necessarily needed the stuff at the end, but I really enjoyed the stuff at the end because it was like a commentary on the field that both Barry and Gene wanted to be like a part of, and Hollywood and all that. But I think it would have worked if that was the ending.
Yeah. So yeah, and you mentioned that we'll talk about the mass collector, but we jump in time again, and Sally is now a drama teacher at a school, and the son is grown up a bit here, and he goes off to a friend's house to watch the movie that they've been teasing in the second half about Barry, and it's all distorted. It's Barry is the hero now. He's buried in Arlington with full honors. Meanwhile, Gene was the corrupt one. He's in prison for both murders, Janice and of Barry.
He's an evil British man now.
And I like the commentary it was saying about like, the anti-hero, like we're watching this anti-hero, and that's what the show is. Barry's the protagonist, and like I liked what they were saying with that. But I feel like this is where it kind of lost me and stuff. I don't know if I fully buy this being like the events that everyone accepts in this world. They had enough, at least at first, at the beginning of the season, to put Barry away. And I'm not sure like what Barry said in his like plea deal to get out with witness protection. Maybe he even said more incriminating stuff. I would assume so, but he's definitely said incriminating stuff. So for full honors, it's like, okay. And then, it goes back a little bit, even like Jim caught Barry in episode 6, and, didn't feel like, oh, he just like kind of let him escape. Like he didn't have him really tied up all that well. And this guy was this person that he was like ready to just kill right there, right then and there. But instead he's going to do this interrogation. And it's like, no, like I got to do this other thing. Let me, come back in a few hours and check in on Barry. And so it just confused me that it just seemed like, Gene like didn't talk to his son like for these 8 years, when he was in hiding. It's like, no, like he accidentally shot him. He ran upstairs. He would go talk to his son. He would go to the hospital to talk about this. Like, I just don't buy
Yeah.
that as a character trait from Gene.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of stuff with that where I don't fully buy it.
Mhm.
Am I? Yeah.
No, I agree. I agree. And I think a part of that is going with the time jumps is
Yeah.
because we need to get everything happening, quickly, and some things might get lost in the sauce there.
Mhm. Yeah, and that leads into this theory about the time jump that I think I might have told you about, Kyle, where you know there's this theory about like kind of it was all going to be fake because after the bag is removed over Barry's head in Jim's garage, to me and a lot of people online, he looked like visibly younger. You're not seeing the Clark years. He's kind of clean shaven, so it's like he's wearing a different outfit. It's like, so did Jim really, clean him up a bit, put him in a new outfit, shave him, like do all this stuff? Or was the Clark years not real and that was all in like his head? Because when Jim does his interrogations, they kind of get a little wild because Jim broke a Vanity Fair reporter who now speaks German. So like, who knows what Barry would think about in his head.
Yeah.
But thankfully that wasn't the case. It wasn't some kind of this bait and switch, because I feel like it'd be one thing if it was an episode or maybe a scene of a bait and switch, but you can't do 2, 3, 4 episodes of that, especially when the season is only 8 episodes.
Yeah.
So
with
yes.
that scene, one of the scenes in the wherever they were, Oklahoma or Nebraska or wherever, who was attacking Sally and the boy? Like, do we ever figure that out, or was it just in their mind because she was drunk? I was confused by that a little bit.
I'm definitely confused too, and I think this is another reason where if that fake time jump theory like was real, this would not make sense because we're seeing this all from like Sally's point of view, and it's also distorted here because this man is all in black, and there's like a point where it looks like he's in the room, but then she closes the door, which looks like at first he would be in the room, but instead he's actually hit by the door. So like everything's like off. And then we see like this truck slamming into the house, which is like pushing it around. And I heard somewhere that the audio possibly could be from the attack she experienced in season 3. So like there's a lot of like because she's throughout the season here saw the person that she ended up killing, one of the biker guys that came to kill her, seeing that face throughout the season, whether it's behind one of the seats at the airport or as one of the cops when she's in Los Angeles. So she's haunted by that. I don't know what the answer is with this. Is it, I don't think it is, but like the only person I feel like she really ever wronged was the a-hole at the diner that she worked at, that she, was choking a few days before, because before Barry left, he also got a knock on the door, and it's like, he just stood out there for so long. And do we ever find out who that was, or was it supposed to be this person? So there's a lot of questions left over.
Yeah.
But, so I know, John, is there anything else you want to talk about with the time jump? Because I know when we last talked on podcast, we weren't sure if it was real. It was that mid-season point where is this even a real thing? But we ended up spending, 4 episodes in this 8 years later world.
I just don't know. I just don't know if the effort to do the time jump paid off for me. How different would this be if there was no time jump and it happened 2 months after Barry broke out and he wanted to go back and get rid of Gene because Gene was talking about a movie or whatever? Like, I just don't know what the time jump really got us besides the sun.
I think that's the sun. That's the only thing.
That's the only thing that really, in my opinion, that we really gained. So I don't know if that really paid off for me. Like I said earlier, I enjoyed it, but I don't think it was as punchy as some of the other seasons, and I kind of feel like the time jump was why, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's almost like the first 4 episodes of the season were like a little extra season 3, and then this would have been the season 4 premiere, but we only got like 2 hours of it, because it's 4 episodes, 30 minutes. So it feels a little like, oh, that's it. And it was, I think it's really just to get the sun to have a reason for, Barry to really want, to save him, and for Fuchs to save him, and for that whole thing. It's like, I think that was a lot of what we gained from it, but I don't know if it was worth the entire squeeze, if that makes sense. But still some hilarious moments though in this second half. The whole Fast and the Furious runner when they were like talking about with the Ravens crew. It's like,
Yeah.
pretty much, like how do we, when these guys attack, like what are we, the women here, what are we gonna do? Oh, we're gonna take them out and do all this stuff. It's like, oh, what is it gonna be like Fast and Furious? And like that whole just derailment was just hilarious. Barry podcast hopping to find the one that gives him the okay to commit murder with Bill Burr, as one of the hosts.
Yeah.
And the idea that was really funny to me was the idea that Daniel Day-Lewis was good to play Gene in the movie.
Yeah.
And Gene initially thinking that it was Tony Danza trying to F with him. But then I saw this post because this is real. So Daniel Day-Lewis hasn't been seen for a few years, out and about. But he finally appeared, was photographed, a week before the finale here. And he had this whole new look to him. And it looked just like, Gene. It looked like Gene's long hair post time jump. So I'm like, if these producers of Barry somehow got Daniel Day-Lewis to come out of retirement for this like
that would have been
bit
hilarious.
in the finale, that would have been amazing. He was playing Gene Cousineau in the Mask Collector, but fortunately that was not the case. But man, what a weird coincidence of the hair and the timing and everything of that. But wow,
I just like subtle moments because it brings these comedic moments where like Barry going to buy the guns.
Yeah.
And then they like drop down the music and you hear like natural sound. And it's just like this, what everyone deals with at the mall or whatever. And you just hear, finally, I can see it is right. As he's like walking in and
she just like, says, I have to show you these. And it's just like pictures. And he's like, okay. And just like,
I mean, if he's a combat medic, that probably is like nothing to him, Like,
and he just like goes in the finale. He's just like guns. It's just like, and
then he got in the car with him on his back. Like, you think someone who's been in the situation where you'd have that, you would like think twice about
I definitely
that,
feel like there's like, maybe it's just me. I feel like Barry season 1 was maybe like this level of intelligence, but by season 4, it was like almost like the Simpsons, Homer Simpson effect, where it's just like he's just getting progressively dumber like throughout the series. But oh man, as much as it's dark, it still had some great comedic bits. It still is a well-produced show. The directing is some top-notch stuff. Definitely I'm glad, with everything that went down, but I think just overall this finale, I think is maybe the second half of season 4 isn't their strongest stuff when compared to the body of work of the previous 3.5 seasons. But
still a great show.
Still a great show. 2 great shows tonight. Hopefully this was a third, this podcast tonight. Talking about Succession, Barry, Max. And man, we have a lot coming up in June. I mean, we're going to be off next week, but we're going to be back June 12th. And during that time, we would have the series premiere of the much buzzed show, maybe even for all the wrong reasons, The Idol on HBO and on Max. And we also have the return of I Think You Should Leave and Always Sunny, plus possibly the series finale of Ted Lasso. Maybe. I don't know. Could be. We'll try to talk about it if it is. You can find those episodes on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, the blog, dualredundancy.com. We are live Mondays on Twitch, twitch.tv/Dual Redundancy. And make sure you're following us on social media, Twitter, Instagram, and on TikTok. Quick shout out for TikTok. We hit 1,000 likes across our videos. We started this a few months ago, posting these little extra clips on TikTok. And they seem to be doing well. So if you're not following us yet, get on it at Dual Redundancy on social media. I got to thank both you guys tonight, spending your holiday weekend doing a podcast with me, talking about these 2 shows. For John, directing the episode, getting it up on Apple Podcasts and YouTube. I couldn't do it without you guys.
Sure.
Yeah, you can put me under the creators label.
Yeah, okay. I don't think so.
I just want overtime for working on the holiday.
I'm missing that. I'm sorry. But until next time, I'm David Allen.
I'm John Berwick.
And I'm Kyle Bridger.
And that's all we got for Dual Redundancy. Goodbye, everybody.